Next time you're in Dollar Tree, pick up one of their hardcover books for this moody fall decor idea. I mean, really, people use whatever kind of book you would like, but since we're going to be decoupaging this and attaching stuff to it, the hardcovers, they work best for me. Now, this book also had like indents where the words are, and instead of me using spackling to kind of fill them in, waiting for that to dry, I'm just going to take some chalk paint for our base color and do 2 coats of this. This way, since chalk paints are thicker, it kind of just fills in those grooves and we won't see them so much. On the back of the book though, instead of me decoupaging both sides, I'm just going to paint that black. And you can paint your book before or after you glue it down. It's completely up to you. I've done both. In this case, we are painting the book and the innards of, around the edges before we begin our decoupage and gluing everything down. For the decoupage part, we're going to be using my TDS Creative Moody Fall print. Absolutely love this piece. And we're going to be cutting this one out right here with the little book and the owl. But before we do, I grabbed my Type On Quick and Thick and my hot glue gun and got to work. And again, this is a preference. With my book decor pieces, I always glue them together. And I'll usually alternate between a long holding glue and the hot glue, and I'll switch that up between regular wood glue. I've used tacky glue and the Type On Quick and Thick, but as of like the last year or so, the Quick and Thick is definitely my favorite. Once everything was all glued down, I grabbed my medium and my TDS Creative artist brush in the fan style for our application. Just applied a nice layer all over the top of the book. If you want to, if I was doing this with a napkin, I'd go in little sections. But with this tissue paper, I know that I can, put a nice healthy layer all over the piece and then apply our paper. You can apply it dry just like this, but I'm going to take my little water bottle and give it a spritzy spritz on the back and then press it down just with my fingers. And if you want to use some cling wrap or you want to use a sponge or a brayer, go right ahead. A lot of times I'm able to get a nice connection just with my fingers. When the piece was dry, I went over with a little thin layer. This won't be the last time I seal over it, but just before I get started with anything else, I applied a nice layer and made sure everything was connected around the edges. Once the piece is all dry, now it's time to get a little creative and add some accents. Well, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I like to. And I'm going to be doing that with my TDS stencil called Provincial Garden with Geometrics. And this is one that I already have been cutting down into sections. And I'm just going to add some of my homemade texture paste with some acrylic paint. I know it's brown, okay? Don't be judging me because I'm mixing brown in here. It's all going to make sense and it's going to match. That's really all that matters. I'm also taking a little bit of this gold metallic paint and mixing in here to add a little bit of shimmer in the stencil. You can, again, skip all this part if you want, but we're rolling on with it. And then if you want to tape down your stencil so don't move, you go right ahead. Since it was on the edge of the book, I didn't, okay? And I did the top and the bottom. For the spine, I'm going to be using this little decorative piece of wood trim I got from Home Depot. Now, you could absolutely use clay. I do these spines different for each book decor piece that I create. This is just how I rolled along with this one. When everything was dry and I let this dry the next day, I came back in with the same paint that we put on the back of the book to tie everything in. And I did the bottom, and you see how I'm just kind of bringing that up, dry brushing over our raised stencil there, and then I painted the spine completely black and it looked like this. And I love it. I love how this blended and turned out. Then I added some accents, wrapped some twine around here, and I did do a little dry brushing with some more of that gold paint around the edges. Grab one of these little wood hanging decor pieces from Dollar Tree for an easy, small riser idea. Now we're going to stop up that hole by covering it with some masking tape and filling it with some of this DAP spackling. I do pick this stuff up from Walmart for anyone interested. I'm sure you could pick it up from Home Depot or Lowe's or any hardware store. I let it dry and then grab some of my beads for our feet. I am out of little riser feet, unfortunately. I need to go find me some, or when Christmas rolls around, I'm going to get me some of them snowmen from Dollar Tree. To attach our pieces, I'm just going to be using some quick and thick, and then just pop these right on the bottom here. I then grabbed one of my little molds, and this is just something I picked up off Amazon. I just put in little scroll molds and I grabbed whatever was cheap on that joint. And this is not my favorite clay. My favorite clay is paper clay. I'm out of it. I've been just using this random generic clay. It shrinks. It's nothing to brag about. If you want to know what clay I use, it's called paper clay. It's not this. It's what I got on hand right now, okay? Then I'm going to take some of my quick and thick and just put on the back here and press it all around the riser. While these little circle pieces from Dollar Tree, they're really thick, the edge is rough. So, I mean, and they're fine. I've made pieces before with them with the rough edges, but it looks so much nicer being covered up by something fancy smancy. Once everything was dry, I let it dry till the next day. I grabbed some black paint and I did all around the bottom and the side. I did not do the top because we're going to be taking my TDS Creative Decoupage tissue paper. This is the Moody Fall design, and I cut off one of the little squares at the bottom. It's a little pumpkin piece. Grabbed some medium and then started applying. If you want to put a layer of white paint so the design pops more, you go right ahead. I figured since, you know, we're going moody, that the neutral or of the wood base would be just fine. I applied a layer of that medium, and you can use whatever works best for you, right to the top, and then sprayed the back of the tissue paper and use my fingers to press it down. You do not have to spray the back of this if you choose not to. You could just apply it dry. This is just how I wanted to go about it. And then I let this dry for a couple hours. And then it was time to bring on in the little finger sander so we could just trim off all the excess around our little riser piece. I grabbed my metallic paint to go around, have those edges pop out, and then took some black paint to go and trim up any excess that was showing. And love how this little piece turned out. I added a cloche top onto it with some fairy lights, some accents around it, but it looks amazing without the cloche top as well. Grab 6 of these palettes next time you're in Dollar Tree, people. We're going to be using them to make a large pumpkin DIY for fall. And you're going to want to recreate this and put your own spin on it. First things first, we're going to need to attach all these little gems. So line them up so they look just like this. And then grab whatever you would like to attach them. I'm going to be using some popsicle sticks. That's what I like to call them. If you refer to them as crafter sticks or, you know, tongue depressors, you do you. But I'm going to call them popsicle stick. Then I cut different sizes off and they went flying, and then I went collected them. It's fine. I like to live dangerously, and it keeps my mind sharp with wonder when I don't know where they went. To attach all the pieces, I'm going to use some Titebond Quick and Thick and some hot glue. And I just took the larger sections of the popsicle stick and use 3 of those right down the center, and then I had like medium-sized pieces cut and used them in the larger intersection pieces that connected all of them, and then teeny tiny pieces on the other parts. Again, you can attach these however you would like. This is just how I went about it. I'm gonna make a brim for the hat, and I'm gonna use a paint stick for that. I never liked that little edge on there, so I'm gonna bring on in our miter shears and just nip that sucker right on off. For our paint color, I'm gonna use pumpkin, and I'm actually gonna add a little bit of this Tuscan red. It is one of my favorite things to add to this pumpkin color. It gives us like, I like to call it like a moody orange, okay? And then before I start painting everything, I take my water bottle and give a spritzy spritz all over the sections I'm gonna paint. This really helps to move the paint around quickly and get in all those little sections. You can absolutely do this dry without any water. It's entirely up to you, but I was able to get this painted in less than 5 minutes. When it was dry, I grabbed some Mod Podge so we could apply a nice thick juicy layer all over to the top section where the hat is going to go, so we can do the iron on method with some decoupage tissue paper. Now I like to pop a nice thick layer and allow this to dry overnight. If you don't have that kind of patience, 3 to 4 hours, I let it dry naturally, and some people like to heat gun it. I don't do that. For the decoupage tissue paper, we're going to be using my TDS creative design called Scripts, and I just cut a little section out to size, and then it was time to bring on in the iron. I use this, you can use whatever iron you would like. I usually have this right next to my craft station, and I do turn mine all the way up. Make sure you grab you a piece of parchment paper, and it doesn't matter. I've used the shiny side, the non-shiny side. I get asked that often. Doesn't, I use whatever. Okay, just put the parchment paper down. And then I'll start from one side and work my way over to the next. And I spend some time ironing on the piece. I like to do a good 5 minutes, people, like really taking my time going over, making sure it's melted on here. And a good way to check I like to share is to pull up everything. Like you can see, I'm literally pulling this off the table to show you how adhered this is to the top of these palettes. I painted the paint stick black. Just, you know, shove this in here so y'all seen. It's painted, it's drying. And then I grabbed my X-Acto knife. And let's bring on in the finger sander because we're gonna need that too. But I'm just gonna be using it around the edges. My preferred method to remove the excess in between is the X-Acto knife. And to get the excess off on the other side, I just cut on the very top and I grab it and hold it in place and then go down the opposite side. I used my Titebond Quick and Thick to attach the brim on our hat and then grabbed a pencil and started sketching out our face. Pumpkin faces are really fun and super easy. You're really just doing 3 triangles and then figure out how many teeth you want your smile to have. I decided to keep mine fairly simple, so this way if anybody wanted to recreate my smile at home, you seen we only needed 2 little bottom teeth. I thought that was super cute. But by all means, people, put as many teeth in your pumpkin smile as you would like. I felt like the hat needed a little something something extra, so I took this black piece of burlap and I frayed around the edges, and really love how creative this little piece turned out. If you're looking for more moody fall DIYs, check out this video right here. And as always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time.